What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. And on today's video, well, I don't always do a long-term review of every pair of running shoes that I wear. Sometimes I'll just do an initial review, tell you about them, but other times there are shoes that I actually use for a long time, shoes I keep reaching for. And after today's run, I have put 114 miles in the MIZUNO Wave Rebellion. And I think this shoe is worthy of a 100-mile review. But first, let me know if you have run in the Wave Rebellion and what your thoughts on the shoe are. Because I did talk to my buddy Brian this morning and he was saying that he thought this was a great shoe for his long marathon training runs. Like, we're talking up to 20 miles. Now, I haven't run 20 miles in the Wave Rebellion, but you better believe I could. In fact, this shoe feels so good on my foot that I find myself reaching for it more than other shoes. But I'm gonna get a little more into the fit, into the feel, how it actually rides in just a second. But perhaps this is the first video you've seen on the MIZUNO Wave Rebellion, so let's talk some specs. The Wave Rebellion retails for $180, and yes, I think maybe it could be a little less expensive, but there are several things that makes this shoe worth the $180 that you may pay for it. With that said, I've got a feeling that MIZUNO is ready to bring the fire in the next couple months with some new running shoes, so it's likely the Wave Rebellion is going to be on sale. And even though I think $180 is worth it for a shoe of this caliber, if you can get it for less, well, getting anything for less is always better. So a US men's size 9 weighs in at 8.8 ounces or 249 grams. However, I wear a US men's size 13, and my size, it tips the scale at 10.7 ounces or 303 grams. Not crazy light, but certainly not heavy. Now you're probably wondering where this shoe is placed in the running shoe spectrum. And I would have to say that this is probably Mizuno's up-tempo. If they had a racing shoe, this is probably going to be it, but it's definitely more suited towards an up-tempo kind of pace. And this is why I have been reaching for this shoe so often. The Wave Rebellion is equally at home at nice, cruisy, easy paces. You know, the kind of paces where I am heel striking a lot rather than landing on the ball at my foot and being pushed forward. And that is what I love about this shoe. We do have an 8mm drop. We've got 36 in the heel, 28 in the forefoot, and it is a neutral shoe, although it really does feel stable under my foot, on the ground. And that probably has something to do with the wave plate. Now, the wave plate is a glass fiber casted bean composite material, and the plate is actually shaped in a claw, like a lobster claw. You can see the wave plate is quite high right here on the lateral side. It's the same on the medial side here. But also look at this. If you follow the wave plate down, you can see how it drops down a lot closer to the outsole. And it's this shape that really makes the shoe feel good when you are picking up the pace. It really feels like the shoe is supporting you as you move forward at a faster pace. And I'm not sure how you can see this on camera, but I said it was a lobster claw shaped plate. You can kind of see the shadow of the plate. Here on the medial side, we have the longer part of the lobster claw, and here on the lateral side, we have the shorter part. Not that it means anything to you, but I just want to describe it so you know what it's doing under your foot. And whatever it's doing feels good, and it's doing a good job. So I know this is my long-term review, and the main thing that I'm trying to get across is how this shoe rides. We've got the wave plate. The way it's shaped encourages faster running, but the shoe also feels good at slower paces. It's also kind of built as a hybrid between a faster shoe and a daily trainer. If we look at the heel collar right here, we can see there's a lot of padding, and that's very indicative more of a daily trainer. There's a lot more support around the heel collar. The heel counter is very rigid. I mean, like extremely rigid. You're not pushing that down at all. The tongue is super thin. I mean, it's crazy thin. It just provides enough padding and enough of a barrier to stop the laces from biting into the top of your foot. However, I've got a few silly complaints after running in these shoes for 114 miles. And one of those complaints is the tongue. The tongue just seems a little big and a little flat. It kind of wraps around the sides. So when I tie my shoes, I have to make sure that the tongue is tucked in around the sides of my feet. Now to be clear, I never notice the tongue once I'm out there running. Once I have the shoes on my feet and tied, I don't give the tongue another thought. But every single time that I put these shoes on and I kind of pull the tongue up and then I put it into place so I can tie the laces, I always think, that's a big tongue. And the next issue that I have with the Wave Rebellion, although it's really not an issue, is that I find the laces are just very long. I mean, very long. You see how long this is? This is obscenely long. And I find that in order to make these shoes work, I have to triple knot my shoes. Otherwise, if I just double knot, the lace loops are just too low. They're hanging too low and I'll probably trip over them. Now I feel silly picking on that little thing about the laces being too long because we all double knot our shoes. And with these, I find I just have to triple knot them. Not a big deal, but still, you know, probably takes an extra 5 seconds out of my day. I guess the main reason I wanted to tell you about the tongue and the laces is because clearly I'm a fan of this shoe and I don't want everything to be so positive. So the tongue is big, the tongue is flat. The shoes do provide a great lockdown across my midfoot. However, for me, it is noticeable that I have to tie my right foot foot considerably tighter than I do my left foot. But I think that is more a matter of my misshapen feet. I think my left foot is obviously the bigger of my two feet, and with the Wave Rebellion, it's the first shoe that I've really noticed that I have to cinch down the right one more than the left one. As far as the upper goes, it is a one-piece engineered mesh. I've really got no complaints about the upper. It breathes surprisingly well, even in my summer Florida runs. Look, I still have to stuff this shoe with newspaper when I'm done, but my foot doesn't feel noticeably hot when I'm wearing them. The outsole is Mizuno's Energy Light foam. It's a Pebax foam, and it is pretty responsive. And as you already know from the stack height of 36 in the heel, 28 in the forefoot, we have a lot of that Energy Light foam. And again, that is one of the reasons why this shoe is so comfortable to run in. It's another reason why my buddy Brian is able to enjoy running these 20-mile marathon training runs in this shoe. The shoe just provides a lot of cushioning. Now let's come down to the outsole, because this is kind of a double-edged sword. And I'm realizing, looking at it, I probably should have banged these shoes off before I brought them into the office to talk about them, because there's a lot of sand all over the outsole, and it's absolutely coating my desk. Okay, so the outsole is Mizuno's G3 outsole. Basically, it's an injected molded plastic. They inject the outsole into a mold, and then they lay it over a material which is then placed on the bottom of the shoe. And the outsole is remarkably resilient. And this is another one of the reasons why I really think it's worthwhile for you to take a look at the Mizuno Wave Rebellion, because this shoe is going to last a really long time. Now, perhaps you saw my first review of the Mizuno Wave Rebellion, and I was talking about how it seemed like a very firm ride. And yes, the ride does seem firm when you first put on the shoes, especially if you're coming from other shoes that are a bit more plush. But what I've most enjoyed about the Wave Rebellion is that these shoes have really grown on me. The ride is something that I just had to get used to, because even though I said it was a firm ride, it is not a firm ride at all. Now, it's not super plush, it's not like wearing a pair of slippers, but the ride is soft enough and comfortable enough to let you go out there for hours at a time on the run. I now know, after 114 miles, what I was referring to when I said it was a very firm ride. And that is the injected molded outsole. It's quite a firm rubber. And because it's a firm rubber, it makes a little bit of noise when your feet hit the ground. In fact, this morning, I went out for a tempo run, and I came up behind a couple of friends that were running, and they heard me coming before I even thought it was suitable to announce myself coming up behind them. Now, maybe this is just because of the way I run, maybe I do run in a slappy way, but this is one of those shoes, at least for me, that slaps the ground and is quite loud with my footfalls every time my foot hits the ground. I've also found that with the X-S10 2. The X-S10 2s are a pretty popular shoe, and you always know when someone is coming up behind you, or you hear someone to your left or to your right that isn't directly in view, and you can tell what shoes they are wearing because of the sound that the X-S10 2 makes. Now, I don't think the Wave Rebellion is that distinctive, but all that to say that yes, it is a bit of a loud ride when my foot is hitting the ground. Now, of course, that doesn't bother me. It's something that I kind of tune out. But it's exactly that made me say that the ride was firm in the beginning. And it's really not. Not a firm ride, just a louder ride. That makes sense? So if you are a fan of Mizuno, or you like how these shoes sound, I can honestly say that I definitely recommend the Mizuno Wave Rebellion to anyone looking for, number one, a kind of tempo shoe. Number two, a shoe that can pretty much do everything that you're looking for a running shoe to do. And that's probably the most surprising thing to me over the last 114 miles, is that this shoe is a great all-rounder. And number three, you don't want to replace your shoes very often. This G3 outsole is going to last forever. In fact, I know that when I eventually retire these shoes, there is going to be a lot of life left in this outsole. But as we all know, it's the midsole that goes before the outsole in a lot of shoes, so maybe that's not saying too much. Anyway, I want to hear from you. Let me know what you think of the Wave Rebellion. Let me know what your favorite shoe is for doing everything, you know, kind of a jack of all trades. And also let me know what your favorite tempo or faster shoe is. Not a race shoe. It's not a fair comparison against a race shoe. But you know, something like the Saucony Endorphin Speed or the Puma DV8 Nitro, I think they go head to head with the Mizuno Wave Rebellion. Alright guys, that's it for today. Thanks for staying all the way to the end of the video. Be kind, be happy, run well. I'll see you in a couple of days.